The courtroom footage captured a moment so unbelievable that millions of people online would later call it one of the most satisfying cases of public justice ever seen. Karen Whitmore, a 48-year-old woman dressed in expensive clothes, oversized designer sunglasses covering her eyes, slowly made her way into Judge Judy's courtroom while gripping a spotless white mobility cane like it was part of a carefully rehearsed performance. Every movement looked exaggerated. Every step appeared overly dramatic. She tilted her head and reached outward in the exact way someone pretending to be blind might imagine blindness looked. At first glance, it seemed convincing. But within the next few minutes, everything would collapse in spectacular fashion. The clip would explode across the internet, gaining tens of millions of views as people watched a fraud unravel live on television. Yet the truly shocking part wasn't simply that Karen got exposed. It was how Judge Judy exposed her. Because the woman's lies wouldn't be uncovered by documents alone, or witnesses, or surveillance footage. Instead, her entire scam would be destroyed by something she never expected, a golden retriever. Before this unbelievable courtroom takedown began, Karen Whitmore believed she had created the perfect deception. For nearly half a year, she had convinced people she had suddenly lost her eyesight due to a rare medical disorder. She collected disability payments, filed lawsuits, and received sympathy from anyone willing to believe her story. She studied videos online to perfect the act. She learned how blind individuals moved, spoke, and navigated spaces. She purchased mobility accessories and practiced looking helpless until the performance became second nature. And it worked, at least for a while. Karen eventually filed a lawsuit against Barbara Chen, the owner of a small accounting company where Karen had briefly worked as a bookkeeper. According to Karen's claims, Barbara had terminated her employment after learning about her blindness. Karen demanded $125,000 for discrimination, emotional suffering, and wrongful termination. To Karen, the case looked easy. She assumed sympathy alone would guarantee victory. Barbara Chen sat quietly at the defense table that afternoon, looking emotionally drained. At 52 years old, she had spent decades building her accounting business from scratch. Every dollar mattered. And now she had spent over $12,000 defending herself against allegations she knew were false. When Karen first announced her supposed condition months earlier, Barbara had shown compassion. She offered accommodations and flexibility. But over time, strange inconsistencies started appearing. The employees claimed they saw Karen driving normally. Security cameras showed her navigating hallways effortlessly whenever she thought nobody was paying attention. Karen insisted she couldn't read paperwork, yet Barbara personally witnessed her scrolling through text messages on her phone without assistance. The moment Barbara questioned those contradictions, Karen threatened legal action. And soon after the lawsuit arrived, Judge Judy had reviewed the case extensively before stepping into court that day. The years of dealing with manipulative people had sharpened her instincts to near perfection, and from the moment she examined Karen's paperwork, something felt deeply wrong. The disability fraud especially angered her. Throughout her legal career, Judge Judy had met countless individuals facing genuine physical hardships. She had seen real suffering, real struggle. The idea that someone would pretend to have a disability for financial gain disgusted her. So before the hearing even began, she started investigating. Con calls were made, documents were reviewed, the evidence was gathered. And Karen had absolutely no idea the trap waiting for her had already been carefully prepared. While Karen dramatically stumbled toward the plaintiff's table, the Judge Judy already knew the medical records submitted to the court were suspicious. She had already spoken to the doctor listed in Karen's paperwork. She had already reviewed security footage from Barbara's office. And most importantly, she had arranged for a very special courtroom guest, the one that would expose Karen's lies in a way nobody could argue against. The courtroom carried that familiar tension that always surrounded Judge Judy's most explosive cases. The audience members leaned forward in anticipation while cameras focused closely on Karen's performance. Karen fumbled through papers dramatically. She accidentally knocked over a cup of water across the table. She gasped loudly, as if the spill had become another tragic obstacle in her supposedly difficult blind life. She carefully angled her face toward where she assumed the cameras were positioned, making sure every expression communicated suffering and courage. But Judge Judy wasn't impressed. Her expression tightened as she watched Karen's every movement. Mrs. Whitmore. Judge Judy began firmly. You're claiming you were fired because you became blind. Explain your condition. Karen inhaled slowly, preparing for the emotional speech she had practiced repeatedly at home. 6 months ago, my entire life changed, she said softly. I woke up and everything was dark. Doctors told me I had a rare degenerative condition affecting my optic nerves. She paused for dramatic effect. I lost my independence overnight. I couldn't function normally anymore. And shortly after my diagnosis, Barbara fired me because she didn't want to deal with a disabled employee. Her voice cracked at all the right moments. Her body language seemed perfectly calculated. Several audience members appeared sympathetic. Karen could feel it. Everything was unfolding exactly the way she expected. Judge Judy remained completely expressionless. Then she turned toward Barbara Chen. Miss Chen, Barbara steadied herself before speaking. Your Honor, I did not fire Karen because of any disability, she said carefully. I fired her because I believe she's committing fraud. Barbara opened a large folder filled with evidence. I have surveillance footage showing Karen walking through the office perfectly when she thought nobody was watching. Employees witnessed her driving. I personally saw her reading messages on her phone. Karen immediately interrupted. That footage is misleading, she snapped. People constantly accuse disabled individuals of faking. Just because I've adapted doesn't mean I can suddenly see again. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. Let's discuss your medical records, she said calmly. You submitted documentation signed by Dr. Michael Stevens confirming your blindness. Karen nodded confidently. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Judy's voice turned colder. That's interesting, because yesterday I contacted Dr. Stevens' office. The room fell silent. The office informed me Dr. Stevens retired 8 months ago and hasn't treated patients in over a year. Karen froze. Judge Judy continued without mercy. The signature on your letter matches his old signature perfectly. Unfortunately for you, handwriting experts confirmed the document is fake. The confidence instantly disappeared from Karen's face. She stumbled over her words, trying to recover. There must be some misunderstanding. No, Judge Judy interrupted sharply. There isn't. The atmosphere inside the courtroom shifted completely. The people who moments earlier sympathized with Karen now stared suspiciously. But Karen refused to give up. She doubled down on the lie. Your Honor, I am blind, she insisted emotionally. Maybe paperwork got mixed up, but my condition is real. Judge Judy folded her hands together. Then let's try something simple. She pointed toward Karen's mobility cane. Show this court how you use that cane to navigate unfamiliar spaces. Karen stood slowly and began waving the cane in exaggerated sweeping motions. Almost immediately, Judge Judy shook her head. That's not how blind individuals use mobility canes, she said bluntly. You're performing. Real navigation involves controlled rhythmic movements. What you're doing looks theatrical. The murmurs spread through the courtroom. Karen stumbled again dramatically, pretending humiliation. This is exactly what disabled people go through, she cried. Nobody believes us. The Judge Judy ignored the performance entirely. Instead, she pulled out another piece of evidence. 3 weeks ago, she said, you posted photos from a shooting range in Nevada. Karen's posture stiffened. Judge Judy continued. In those photographs, you're aiming a handgun and hitting targets accurately from 25 yards away. She paused. How does a completely blind woman shoot with perfect accuracy? Karen panicked. Those pictures are old, she blurted out. Maybe somebody hacked my account. Judge Judy didn't blink. The metadata confirms the photos were taken 3 weeks ago. Your credit card records place you at that shooting range the same day. Karen's excuses became more desperate by the second. You don't understand medical conditions, she snapped angrily. You're not an expert. The moment those words left her mouth, the entire room seemed to freeze. Judge Judy's expression turned ice cold. Mrs. Whitmore, she said quietly, you've just made a very serious mistake. Then she turned toward the bailiff. Bring in our guest. Moments later, the courtroom doors opened, and inside walked a golden retriever wearing an official service vest. The dog moved calmly beside its handler, focused and disciplined. This, Judge Judy announced, is Bailey. Bailey is a trained service dog who assists visually impaired individuals. Karen's body immediately tensed. Though she tried maintaining the act, her subtle reactions betrayed her. Her head tracked Bailey's movement, her shoulders stiffened, her breathing quickened. Judge Judy noticed every detail. Mrs. Whitmore, she said, Bailey will help guide you safely across the courtroom. Karen instantly objected. I don't need a dog, she replied nervously. Judge Judy smiled faintly. Humor me. Bailey approached calmly and sat directly in Karen's path. Judge Judy then instructed Karen to walk toward the bench. Karen began moving forward carefully with her cane. But as she neared Bailey, she unconsciously adjusted her direction and stepped around the dog smoothly. Without touching Bailey or detecting her with the cane, Judge Judy immediately struck. How did you know Bailey was sitting there? Karen panicked. I sensed her. Judge Judy's voice sharpened. You navigated around that dog with visual precision before your cane could possibly detect her. Karen's composure completely unraveled. Then Judge Judy requested one final item, a tennis ball. The bailiff returned moments later, holding a bright yellow ball. Karen stood motionless near the center of the courtroom. Judge Judy held the tennis ball up for everyone to see. One final test, she announced. Karen's voice trembled. This is harassment. Judge Judy ignored her. Without warning, she hurled the tennis ball directly toward Karen's face. And instinctively, Karen caught it. Perfectly. Her hands reacted instantly with flawless coordination. The courtroom erupted. Gasps echoed everywhere. Barbara Chen stared in stunned disbelief. Karen herself looked horrified. She had just destroyed her own scam in one catastrophic second. Judge Judy's voice sliced through the silence. Please explain how a completely blind woman just tracked and caught a moving object. Karen stammered desperately. It was instinct. No, Judge Judy interrupted. It was sight. Karen finally ripped off her sunglasses, sobbing uncontrollably. This time the tears were real. Not rehearsed, not manipulative. Real panic, real humiliation. Judge Judy wasn't finished. She revealed evidence of multiple fraudulent lawsuits filed against other employers. Fake disability claims, forged records, fraudulent benefits, Tens of thousands of dollars stolen. The entire operation collapsed publicly in front of millions of future viewers. The Judge Judy dismissed Karen's lawsuit immediately and ordered her to repay Barbara Chen for legal expenses. Then she instructed court officers to contact prosecutors regarding criminal fraud charges. The aftermath was devastating. The courtroom clip exploded online overnight. Millions watched Karen catch the tennis ball again and again. The disability advocates praised Judge Judy for exposing someone who mocked people with genuine impairments. Karen eventually faced criminal prosecution, restitution payments, and prison time. Her name became permanently associated with fraud. Meanwhile, Bailey the Golden Retriever became an internet hero, and Judge Judy's courtroom once again reminded millions of viewers that arrogance, the manipulation, and lies eventually collapse under the weight of truth, because no matter how carefully someone builds a deception, justice only needs one moment to tear it all apart.